RWBY Volume 4, Episode 2, Remembrance. Now, honestly, I gotta say this was a really great episode. We got new characters, we got at least 2 new plot lines. Who knows what's gonna be going on with the RWBY stuff, but I'll get into my theories on that. And we also had an amazingly well done moment at the end of this episode that definitely, it gave me tears for sure. Like, I was certainly shocked, but I actually didn't cry when Pyrrha first died. Like, I was kind of like completely blown away that it actually happened, but I didn't cry. Like, I know a lot of people cried, but this made me cry. I don't know what it is with me. Sometimes it's like remembering people rather than seeing people die that makes me sad. I don't know why, but the way they did that moment was really well done, and it was just amazing. Like, it starts off with RWBY, having these dreams again, which I'm very curious what this is gonna entail, because it started off, when she has the first dream, it's just words from, the actual finale. It's like, do you believe in destiny, when Cinder's saying that, and Pyrrha says yes. But the stuff with Pyrrha saying, Jean, that wasn't in the finale. Not that I remember, at all, when they were actually in that situation. I don't remember any of that stuff. With there would be no reason for Pyrrha to say Jean. And RWBY wasn't even up there until after Pyrrha was actually hit. So after she had already, basically been killed, that's when she got up there. So she wasn't there for any of that anyway. But I don't know. I don't know what this means. They have like the little weird images and stuff. It's like little bubbles and stuff around the screen and everything. So I don't know what the heck that's going to mean for the future. I would assume it has something to do with her abilities. Maybe her reactivating her powers, having that, because that was of course what triggered her abilities to begin with. So having that kind of starting to affect her and wake her up and stuff like that, having these sort of nightmares, maybe that is what's going to lead to her eventually gaining control of her, whatever this, special power is that she really has. But the way they did it at the end, and, she hears Pyrrha actually say Jean, so she gets up and she finds him training, using a scroll, a video of Pyrrha. That was really well done. And I was very surprised and happy to see it, because I was like, wow, this isn't just like some random video where it's just something that we've seen or heard of before. This is brand new footage, and it's new stuff from Pyrrha that wasn't shown before, and I really like that. I thought it was really well done, and it's just a short little video of Pyrrha trying to help Jean, and it's like, okay, have this dance and swing and do this, and it was very interesting because of course it's a very emotional moment, but once again every little thing typically in RWBY means something. And so as Jean is fighting, or at least training with with his swings, it seemed as though he was doing some sort of elemental attacks, because he was swinging. Unless he was swinging epically hard, there's no reason that there should have been like wind blowing from his blade and like actually pushing the grass. But that seemed to be the case. I thought in the premiere that we were seeing some of Jean's semblance, because he got like hit in the face. Like, he takes a bunch of hits and he never seems to really be that hurt by it. And I thought that's what we were seeing in that last episode, when he gets like hit in the face by a rock and then he just gets right back up. And they tend to do that sometimes. Like, people get shot, but that's technically because they aren't bullets. It's it's all dust. But him physically being hit by stuff is a little bit different. Like, him being hit by a rock especially, it's not like, oh, it's dust or anything. Like, he just flat out got hit in the face by a rock. And they all have their aura and stuff like that, but I don't know. Maybe this is a semblance. I always just assumed it was him having a very regenerative, sort of aura that would be a semblance, is that he can kind of he has like endurance, heightened endurance, that sort of thing. But I don't know. It might be something different now. With the the sort of it seemingly like wind, slices and stuff like that. So I don't know. I'm kind of confused now. I always thought, especially from Volume 1, I always thought his thing was like he had an enhanced version of, kind of like an aura. Because they even say in the, when they first talk about that when they're in the forest, and they show the battle with Ren when he fights the, I forgot the name of the actual snakes, what they call them, because they mentioned it before, but forgot the actual names of those. But I just thought, he has like an insanely enhanced version of that because they show Ren do it, and it's like a literal force field. Like he's using his palms to block like this giant snake's teeth. So it's like, all right, it's just a typical force field. It really can be, a projected force field if you want it to be. And I just thought his was like an insanely enhanced version of that. And now it seems like it might be something different. So, really hard to say. Maybe he just naturally has um, a high endurance, aura or something like that. I mean, maybe it's just automatic, and his semblance is actually something else. He just happens to be unique in two different ways, which Jean kind of needs it. I think he needs it, and he deserves it after what happened with him. But I was surprised by that. I was like, okay, so maybe everything we thought with sort of the force field thing isn't exactly what it was meant to be, or it's a part of it where he didn't even realize that he was using his semblance, which can still be an enhanced version, but it could also be projected through him in multiple ways. Like if it's through his weapons, or this would be like some airbending type stuff if he was just like punching and he could like actually shoot his aura outward, using his fist. So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But they kind of threw another hint in there with that, and I was like, okay, that's interesting. But of course, the ending itself, it definitely made me sad. I had a couple of tears there for sure, and it was just a very well done scene. Naturally, I guess it wouldn't have been a scene with Pyrrha if they didn't have her like half tell him, or like she was about to say how she felt and then she doesn't. It's like it probably wouldn't have been right if they didn't have that in there. I don't know. It was very well done, but we also have, of course, the other half of this episode, which is Weiss. We have Weiss, trapped in her castle, and I love what they did with that. We get to meet 3 new characters. We get to meet Klein, who is their butler, who I didn't realize this. I was thinking something totally different, but someone mentioned that he's basically all the 7 dwarves because, of course, Weiss is Snow White. So she's Snow White, and he's all 7 dwarves as one person. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. But the first thing I thought of when his eyes changed color was Neo. I was like, oh, are they somehow related, through a bloodline? And does this explain a little bit, or is this somehow connected as to what her abilities are and stuff like that, which still could be the case because his eyes still change color, which affects his personality. But for Neo, it's hard to tell. I've been trying to figure out what was changing with her, but it seems like she just moves differently based on how her eyes change. Like she can do certain things that she can't do depending on the color of her eyes. So I think one side of I think it is. I think they are kind of similar. I think one side of her, when her eyes are a certain color, that's her when she's able to dodge and stuff like that. And then I think when her eyes change a different color, that's when she's able to kill people. And then her semblance is the fake images and stuff like that. So I don't know. That's still what I think. I'm like, even though that's kind of the fairy tale connection to it, I was like, maybe it's it's still somehow connected to Neo. But we get to meet him. We get to meet Jacques, who is of course Weiss's father, who at this point kind of don't like him. He made Ironwood seem really great and nice, which is crazy. And Ironwood, honestly, so we go into this episode and we see Ironwood, and he's in the opening and stuff. So I was like, oh, cool, Ironwood, from the premiere and everything. I was like, oh, Ironwood's going to be a huge part of the series, of course. And so they go in and they're arguing and stuff, which is kind of typical Ironwood. And then when they realize that Weiss is there, he changes, and I was like when he changed, I was like, I'm curious now if this is the same person, because he was so nice to her, and I'm like, I'm just not used to him being nice, and I instantly, that's how crazy it was. It was like him being nice was so weird to me. I thought that was a different character for a second. I'm like, is this the same person? Maybe he just looks like Ironwood, but it was definitely the same guy, and I was like, it's weird seeing him nice to anybody. So it was kind of funny when he was acting that way towards Weiss. He's like, oh, Miss Schnee, I apologize and stuff. And I was like, that's really weird to me. And plus because, of course, they're both at Beacon, but they never actually crossed paths. That was another thing. It was like, I was thinking, like, is there, they had to have met at some point, right? But I don't think they ever did. They maybe did during, like, the episode before the finale, because there's the scene where, like, all the kids are together, and Ironwood is the one who's like, hey, you can either stay and fight or you can take off, it's your choice. But that was really it. It wasn't like specific to Weiss or anything. So it was still really weird. I was like, man, been so close in proximity, but we've never had a scene like that. It seemed out of character because I knew that they were so close, from the last volume. And it was just kind of funny. I was like, man, that just makes him seem like a totally different person to me. So that was kind of weird. I was like, all right, that was just a funny little moment. But he also seemed to have an interesting little line when he was leaving out. I don't know if I read into this too much, but when he's leaving out, he's like, you always have a home at the academy. And I kind of felt that was him saying, like, hey, the school isn't up right now, but once it is, I can help you get out of here if you want to leave, because I'm sure he has a very personal connection with their father, and he knows what that dude is like, and we clearly know what he's like. They do it in the first scene where they're arguing. Ironwood has water, and her dad has whiskey. And I was like, oh, that's a cool, it's just a little touches like that. Like, they're just talking, but he has water and he has whiskey. Just little stuff like that. It's like, it really shows what it's like, in their family. And then there's another line with, our third new character. And I can't think of his name right now. I wish I could, but I totally forgot Weiss's brother's name. But, we get to see him. I figured that was going to be her brother when I saw the opening during the premiere. I was like, all right. It was like either one of two things. It was either going to be her brother, or it was going to be like the apprentice butler. And I was like, I don't think they're going to do that. I think that's going to actually end up being her brother. So I was right about that. And so he comes in. He's the youngest of the three, and he talks with Weiss. Sadly, we don't get to see Winter, which I think would have been cool to see all three of them together. But Weiss and him, they have their conversation, and the line that he gives, and this was even before they showed her dad, was like perfect. It instantly told us all what their family was like. And it was like, I heard that dad was yelling at someone, and she's like, oh, is it mom? And he's like, no, she's already in the garden drinking. And I was like, yep, I know what this family is now. Like, that, once he said that, it was like, I know exactly what this family is. The wife is with the dad for money, and the father kind of sucks because he doesn't really care that much about his children, but he kind of, in the most minimal way, sort of shows that he cares, but he doesn't really care about what they want, just the fact that they can live to kind of carry on his name and kind of the lineage and money, of their family. And it said it all in that one line. It was just like, yep, that's what their family's like, which I guess isn't that surprising considering, Weiss's character. But another thing I noticed about Weiss's brother is that it seems to kind of go down the line. So we have Winter, who's like insanely serious, because she's the first kid. So it's like the first kid is super serious because she was there with both their parents alone. And it's like, you have to be this because you're the only child. And then it got to Weiss, and it was still serious, which we obviously saw when she first showed up in the series. But it's changed, and she's becoming more relaxed, and she made friends and stuff. And then we see her brother in this episode, and he seems like the least serious of the three. And he's just like, hey, you're really strong and stuff. He was just being nice. And he's like, be like Winter. And she's like, you never even like Winter. He's like, yeah, but can't deny her resolve. He was kind of like super nonchalant about everything. And it kind of went perfectly down the line, like super serious, medium serious, but she can, have her friends and be fine. And then like just, I do whatever. Just nonchalant, and he's just fine living his life as he does. I was like, I kind of like that dynamic. It goes down the line of seriousness. And they show the family portrait. I love that they did this, but Winter grew up to look exactly like their mother. I thought that was so funny, because that's a picture of, all the kids are still really young, but they show their mom and their dad. I'm like, Winter looks just like their mom, and I just thought that was kind of funny. So I like getting to see that, little elements into the Schnee family, and getting to see a little bit of that. Sadly, no sort of linking like in the premiere where it's like, okay, here's the next girl that we're gonna check out. Odds are, with it of course being RWBY, they're gonna go in the order of the colors. So Blake will at least have some appearance. I really do hope in the next episode, and then of course we'll get to Yang and see what she's doing, and then we'll get into the rest of the series. But I enjoyed this episode. It definitely had some very serious moments to it. Great emotional ending. And like I said, we have the plot line introduced of, or what's going on with RWBY, and then we also have the other plot line when the team Ranger or Junior. I'm still gonna call him Team Junior. Sorry if you hate that, but I don't like Ranger. I still want to call him Team Junior. So I'm gonna do that because I can. So we have the team when they get to the village, and it's completely destroyed, and they find a huntsman. We have this random little symbol on the ground that Ren looks at, And then Nora shows up and she looks at it and she has like sort of a like wide-eyed look, and then she gets serious and they look at each other. So this is either the group that they were from that they left, or this is the group that killed their parents, and that's why it's just the two of them. I would assume that this is where they're from, because otherwise, I mean, it could easily happen to just, they happen to survive or whatever, but it's the two of them. So this is going to have something to do with their backstory, and I'm super excited to see that. I never really thought too much about, the history of the characters. Specifically Nora and Ren, I never really thought about it. It was just like, I don't know, something about them has always been different than the other characters. Like, for other people, it's like, I kind of want to know this about their family and this and that. And even Jean, there's something extra I want to know, like his semblance and stuff like that. I guess Pyrrha was the same for me as well, where it's like, I don't need to know more about Pyrrha. I just, whatever she does, and I'm fine with that. Nora and Ren were always that same way to me, where it's like, I don't need to know extra about them. I just like seeing them because I think they're great characters. But now we have this chance to get their backstory and their connection and how they ended up just, with it being just the two of them. I'm excited to see that. And it's going to have something to do with these bandits, which, like I said, it's either going to be the bandits that killed their families, or it's going to be the bandits that are their families that they left from because they didn't want to be those type of people. So either way, I'm super excited for that. We just have to wait and see, where everything ends up going. But it was a fun episode. The first thing I noticed, and I wanted to mention this because I talked a little bit about it in my premiere review. Sadly, this episode was 14 minutes. I was kind of hoping that we were going to get like 19, 20-minute episodes this season, but sadly we're still, kind of in the same 14 to 15, 14 maybe to 16 minute area. So that disappointed me a little bit. I was like, oh, that sucks. I was so excited. I was like, man, with the last episode being 19, which of course it was for the premiere, I was hoping that it was shorter. Actually, like it was 19 minutes, but I was hoping that was the shorter end because it was such an action episode. But no, we still have our 14, 15-minute chunks, but still good. They always do a great story within whatever time, they give us. So definitely enjoyed this episode. Really excited to see, what we're going to get from Blake and Yang. Blake is like my favorite out of all the team members, so I'm super excited to see what they're going to do with her. Yang, I think I'm most excited for to see because, of course, the big difference. So it's like the two of them I actually want to see the most. So I am very excited for these next 2 episodes. But I definitely want to know what you guys thought about this one. So please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, these favorite parts. And because they introduced basically 2 new plot lines in this episode, I want to know your theories for both. I want to know what you guys think is happening with RWBY. Is it just memories? Is it going to be something... a lot of people thought it might be like, oh, somehow this is going to be Pyrrha coming back to life. I don't know if I feel that way about it. I don't know. I always thought the way they did it, I wouldn't be surprised if she came back after they killed Cinder. Because the way they did it, where she, like, disintegrated, and it just seemed very particular to me. I was like, oh, I don't know. That might not be as permanent as it seemed because it was so specific. But I want to know if you guys have that theory, if you think it has something to do with somehow Pyrrha is going to come back, something to do with, RWBY controlling her abilities, or, whatever you guys think that, is going to give us for this volume. And, of course, I want to know what you guys think the deal is with the connection between Ren and Nora and this symbol. Whatever this gang is going to be. Is it, are these the people that killed their family? Are these people actually their family that they left? It's got to be one or the other. It's going to be one of those two. So I want to know your theories on those 2 new plot lines that they introduced. And of course, I want to know what you thought about the episode in general. So please comment below, let me know. And thanks for watching.